There's this incredible photo that I have in the book of Bill Simon, who was the Treasury Secretary in the Nixon administration, testifying before Congress with this massive plume of smoke around his head, which is, I don't think you'd be allowed anywhere near a government building with cigarettes today, but it's a different era. So Bill Simon was a bond trader. He was from New Jersey. He was, kind of a hard scrabble kind of guy. And he had no experience in politics. And just to situate folks, in 1974, Nixon is already mired in the Watergate scandal, which eventually would bring his presidency to an end. And so he sort of, has very little political credibility. And, I'm sure there wasn't a line of very important people lined up ready to be his Treasury Secretary. And so it was in that context that he appointed Simon as the Treasury Secretary. And when Simon started looking at the books, basically looking at U.S. budget, looking at the state of the U.S. financial system, he was extremely worried because really for the first time since the Second World War, the U.S. started running these big budget deficits. We were already fighting a war in Vietnam. Some of the U.S. trading partners who were very weak after World War II, such as countries in Europe and Asia, were recovering. And so the U.S. was running budget deficits and trade deficits. And the dollar had been, sort of depreciating sort of in a serial way for a while. Nixon had taken the dollar off the gold standard in 1971. And he was really worried about the U.S. government's ability to continue funding itself. And to add to the mix, in 1973, there was the Arab oil embargo, which cut oil off to the United States and led to a massive spike in oil prices and gasoline rationing in the U.S. And what Simon concluded was we needed to strike a deal, basically, to come out of this morass. And the idea was that as the oil market was becoming a bigger and bigger share of global trade, that was kind of the main way that, the main sort of mechanism that we needed to give the U.S. financial system another sort of breath of fresh air. He decided that the Saudis had been buying had been selling the most amount of oil basically to the U.S. And so he said, what if we come to a deal with the Saudis in which they agree to price their oil in dollars, so we're paying them dollars for their oil, and then they recycle that money into U.S. government debt, that they basically take the cash that we're paying them for their oil and use it to plug the budget deficits that we're running in the U.S. And the sweetener, the way that we'll get them to do that is really twofold. One, we'll allow them to buy U.S. government debt outside of the normal auctions, so they don't have to sort of publicly bid for U.S. treasuries, and they can kind of do it in secret. And two, we'll give them preferential access to U.S. military hardware. And so, as you mentioned, in the summer of '74, he kind of cocks up this deal, gets extremely drunk, and flies over to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia and negotiates it successfully with the Saudi government. And so some people may have heard of this term petrodollar, right, which is the sort of inextricable link between the oil market and the dollar. That really originated with this deal, this mission that Bill Simon had to Saudi Arabia in 1974.
Yeah, he put his liver on the line to make it happen.
It's a good way to put it.
Yes. So it's dollars leave America to buy oil, then they come straight back as investments that fund American deficits, which is pretty cool. I mean, as deals go. And he was a salesman, so I think he cracked that at the time.